Call the meeting to order. Motion for approval of minutes.
I'd move to approve the minutes.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Minutes are approved. Thank you. This is not quasi. Do we have two sets to approve?
Yes.
But we're going to approve, a motion to approve the September 19th minutes?
Okay, we have a motion to approve the 12th and the 19th minutes. A motion to approve the 19th minutes.
And I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're done with that. Quasi judicial procedures. Agenda item 250147. Any ex parte?
I have no ex parte communications.
Let's see who it is.
Aye.
Me either. And staff is presenting.
Brian.
We have to swear in the witnesses first.
Excuse me.
That's okay. We got the right hand up. Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, members of the LPA. For the record, Brian Elam, Principal Planner with the Growth Management Department. Copy of my work history is on file with the clerk. This is a request by Kotler and Hearing on behalf of Pulte Home Company, LLC, for approval of the Third Amendment to the High Point Planned Unit Development Zoning Agreement to remove an approximate 19.54 acre Camp Valor, also known as Operation 300 site, from the High Point PUD, and to add 6 single-family lots to the development, bringing the total to 290 lots on an approximate 301.46 acre property, resulting in a gross density of 1 unit per acre. Included with this application is a request for deferral of public facilities reservation. The subject property is located at 10205 Pratt Whitney Road in Stewart. The existing zoning district on the property is PUD by way of the High Point PUD zoning agreement, which is consistent with the estate density 1 unit per acre future land use designation. This Third Amendment to the High Point PUD zoning agreement will remove the Operation 300 parcel from the PUD and revise the master site plan to show the new boundaries between the institutional and residential areas, resulting from an additional approximate 5.7 acres of land acquired by Pulte from Christ Fellowship Church. 6 lots have been added to an open space tract in the Phase 2 development. You can see they're labeled here. This is where the Camp Valor Operation 300 parcel was in the PUD. The boundary lines have moved between the institutional and the Pulte-owned properties, and this is where the additional lots have been added from the previous approval. And this is just a nice view of the revised master site plan in full. Here's the first sheet of the revised master site plan. The total site area has been reduced to be consistent with the removal of the Operation 300 parcel, and the institutional area has been reduced to be consistent with the acquired 5.7 acres acquired by Pulte from Christ Fellowship Church. The site now consists of 290 units on approximately 301.46 acres for a density of less than 1 unit per acre allowed by the future land use. Other site data has been adjusted to be consistent with the removal of the Operation 300 parcel. Development review staff have found the Pulte Group application to comply with all applicable regulations in the Comprehensive Growth Management Plan as detailed in the staff report. And staff recommends approval of the Pulte Group application for the Third Amendment to the High Point PUD zoning agreement. And that concludes the presentation.
Any questions from the board?
Not really. I am a little curious. I mean, the site plan was altered to change the institutional area for residential. Were there any other changes made to either drainage or where the wetlands or the dry detention areas are?
No, the site data was just adjusted to because of the acquisition of the additional acreage. But none of that has changed.
But none of the internal sort of functionings of the drainage or the stormwater has been altered?
No.
Okay. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I'm just curious why it was removed from Operation 300.
Well, I can explain it now or in the next one. It's so that Operation 300 can operate the way that they need to run their programs in a better way.
They're going to have their own PUD, which is the next public hearing. So Operation 300 will have their own separate PUD from High Point.
I believe the applicant has a presentation if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Can you pull up the application? Do you have a slide advancer, Brian?
I have a clicker.
While he's doing that, do you have notices that you need to turn in?
Great.
For the record, I do have the mailer notices that have been sent out to everyone within 1,000 feet residents. I'll give this.
Would you introduce yourself?
I sure will. My name is Daniel Sorrow with the land planning firm of Kotler and Hearing. We've been working on this project for really since 2012, when the church first came before the commission and got approval to construct the church at Christ Fellowship. And this agenda item and the next agenda item are linked together. They are really of the same project, and the purpose for this project is really the purpose for the following agenda item. Christ Fellowship and Pulte Homes operate under the existing PUD agreement that's in place today. It governs the residential area as well as the church. We do have Leo Abdallah from Christ Fellowship Church and Garrett Densmore from Pulte Homes in the council chambers, as well as our legal counsel, Mr. Tyson Waters. The church did receive site plan approval and has been operating in their current facility since 2012. They operate on a 50,000 square foot facility on 28 acres. So over the course of time since 2012, they have sold portions of their property to Pulte Homes to develop a high quality, highly aesthetic residential community that Pulte builds. They have all of Phase 1 sold out. I don't know if many of you have been by the High Point community, but all the Phase 1 lots have sold out. They're under construction with Phase 2. It's been an amazing partnership, the church, High Point, and Operation 300. So with this Phase 2 being under constructed, we have an area for 6 additional acres for 6 additional lots that was going to be used for amenity center, sport courts, or something like that. But really, given the need in this part of Martin County, right next to South Fork High School, the residential 6 residential homes is what is being proposed. So tonight, what's before you is the zoning amendment to remove the Operation 300 parcel out of the High Point PUD, so it's about 20 acres, as well as to approve the 6 additional residential lots. I did like to point out that Growth Management staff does recommend approval. It's gone through all the departments in Growth Management staff, and it's found consistent with the Land Development Code and the Comprehensive Plan Amendment. Most of you know where the site is. You've probably been to South Fork High School, or maybe attended the church, or driven by on Pratt and Whitney, but it's located right off Pratt and Whitney. Most of the folks come from 95, go down Canner to 96 to come and go from church, or to come and go from their house. This is an example, or this is the picture and the photo of the Christ Fellowship Main Sanctuary Building. Again, been in operation since 2012, not a new project. They've been operating there very efficiently, very effectively for the last 12 years or so. This is an example of this is a photo of the signage off of Canner Highway for the High Point community. Worked really hard to design a landscape plan that was native and that fit in with the feel and look of the new community. So really This is existing, one of the nicer communities within Martin County, at least South Martin County. It's tucked away from most of the public realm. You really don't even see it until you get up close to the signage. The houses are, pretty far back away from the buffer. The amenity center design is where these 6 lots are going, right across the street from the amenity center that's also under construction as shown on this master plan. So this is the master plan that's been in operation for many, many years now, but with this request before you and the next agenda item, the Operation 300 parcel wants to be autonomous. They want to really have their own PUD regulations in place for their zoning and not be under the High Point PUD. That's really the main request for this project and the emphasis of this project. But I did want to point out where the 6 acres is coming from the church selling to Pulte. So those additional 6 acres are highlighted in yellow, and they're going to provide the opportunity to have the 6 additional lots right across from the amenity center. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time this evening, and be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Pretty clear.
Any questions?
No.
Have a motion?
Public?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Well,
Any public comment?
Not for this, no.
Okay. Yep.
so I have to say that I wasn't really in favor of this project 12 years ago, but I don't see an issue with this, so I'll make a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Passes? 3-0. Next agenda item is NPH1, High Point PUD zoning agreement. Any ex parte?
I have none.
Me either.
Yeah, it's actually Camp Valor PUD.
It's the Camp Valor PUD.
Oh, I'm sorry. NPH2, Camp Valor PUD zoning agreement. Any ex parte?
No.
Okay.
We need to swear the witnesses.
Do you swear or affirm that the evidence you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Go ahead.
Thank you. For the record, Brian Elam, Principal Planner with the Growth Management Department. A copy of my work history is on file with the clerk. This is a request by Kotler and Hearing on behalf of Camp Valor LLC for approval of a zoning district change from the current High Point PUD zoning agreement to planned unit development, PUD. Including a request for approval of the Camp Valor PUD zoning agreement with a master final site plan. The project consists of a rustic campground on approximately 19.54 acre property. Included with this application is a request for a certificate of public facilities reservation. The property is located at 9405 Southwest Kansas Avenue, approximately a quarter-mile northeast of the intersection of Southwest Pratt Whitney Road and Southwest High Point Drive in Stuart, Florida. The existing zoning district on the property is PUD by way of the High Point PUD zoning agreement, which is consistent with the estate density 1 unit per acre future land use designation. Camp Valor is the name of the Operation 300 Incorporated rustic campground site established as a public benefit per the High Point PUD zoning agreement on April 27th, 2021. Operation 300 Incorporated is a Florida not-for-profit organization providing support to Gold Star family members. To ensure Camp Valor has the flexibility to create the best camp for their programs, they are being removed from the High Point PUD and require a valid zoning designation, which this application seeks to provide through the approval of the Camp Valor PUD zoning agreement with master final site plan. Here is the proposed Camp Valor PUD master final site plan documenting the existing developments on the property and some proposed future structures. Access to the site is from Southwest Kansas Avenue, And this proposal includes over 81% open space. Development review staff have found the Camp Valor LLC rezoning application to comply with all applicable regulations in the Comprehensive Growth Management Plan as detailed in the staff report. The staff recommends approval of the Camp Valor LLC request for zoning district change from High Point PUD zoning agreement to the planned unit development through the Camp Valor PUD zoning agreement, including master final site plan. That includes the presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
When you were showing us the site plan, it didn't really appear very clear to me anyway, what was new and what currently existed.
The things that are existing are labeled as existing, and then there are some buildings on there which are labeled as proposed.
Okay, I see the proposed, all right. And so the public benefit remains the same as it would underneath the High Point PUD agreement?
Yes, this is the public benefit.
Right, but that it had been sold as a public benefit for High Point, and now it is its own freestanding public benefit.
Correct.
It is, yes, it's still a public
Okay.
benefit.
Yes, if I can, Pete Walden, Deputy Growth Management Director. The request for public benefits is usually commensurate with the things that the benefits that the applicant gets with the code. And this being a rustic camp, there really is no real bending of the LDRs, no requests in that regard. So, and the operation of the camp as a nonprofit benefits the public in a very good manner. So we did not request any.
Applicant?
Applicant?
For the record, Dan Sara with the land planning firm of Kotler and Hearing. I have in my hand here a copy of the mailer affidavit of all the notices that were sent out to everyone within 1,000 feet. In just a moment, we're going to hear from Tara Baldwin, the president of Operation 300 in Camp Valor. But wanted to just go ahead and state again for the record that it's my privilege and honor to be here tonight representing this project. I really want to thank the nonprofit and Billy Vaughn and Operation 300 for all that they do for the Gold Star families and Martin County and the volunteers that spend countless hours of their own personal time on these camps and on these weekends. And really a great service that they do. Again, my name is Dan Sara with the land planning firm of Kotler and Hearing, and our legal counsel is Ms. Kristen Spake with McCarthy Summers, both in the audience should you have any questions for them this evening. The request before you is, like I said on the previous agenda item, is linked to the High Point PUD that you just approved. Thank you. This was actually separating the 20-acre parcel from the High Point PUD and creating their own PUD, their own zoning district, so that they could be autonomous and continue what they're doing within their own zoning district and to approve the final master plan. I do want to thank staff. We've worked really diligently together over the last year or so on this application and on the High Point application. Really a great group of professionals that we've been able to collaborate with and come up with the best project, I think, for the entire county. Most of you are familiar with where this 20-acre parcel is located within the South County area, but it's highlighted in yellow on the screen. And unlike the High Point PUD, anyone coming to the Camp Valor 20-acre parcel would come off of Canner down to Kansas. So that is the main access for this project. And if you could give us a few minutes, I would like to introduce Tara Baldwin to kind of give you an overview and a presentation of what Camp Valor is all about, and to share with you how they've been currently using the piece of property on the weekends and some of the success that they've had and the wonderful things that they've done for Martin County.
Thank you, Dan. Tara Baldwin, President of Operation 300. Thank you for having us tonight and hearing what we have to say. You may or may not know that Operation 300 has actually been operating in Martin County since 2012, and we have actually been on this property in some capacity since 2019, end of 2019. We have been hosting adventure camps for Gold Star children on the property. We are up to about 6 a year. We're also hosting retreats for widows, and we are also hosting, this year we will host 4 retreats for Gold Star fathers, so men who have lost a child serving in the military. Everything we are doing currently, and we have been able to do up to this point, has been in kind of a temporary status. We don't have any permanent buildings. Even the things that you see that are currently on the site plan are not actually permanent structures. We've outgrown a lot of our spaces. Every time we have a camp, our small pole barn we've outgrown. So having the ability to be separated and be our own entity will give us the ability to move forward in the construction of some more permanent buildings. And that would then allow us to give more to the community. Currently, we do try to work together with several nonprofits and other organizations in our community locally. We've had 100 Boy Scouts camp out at our property. We've had the Fellowship of Christian Athletes host their leadership camps 2 summers now in a row. We have another men's group that has hosted 2 of their retreats at our property and wants to do 2 more in 2025. And that really has been our goal since the beginning, is to make this a property that really is a benefit to everyone in our community, not just ourselves. So having the ability to move forward on our own without being tied to 2 other entities is really what we're asking tonight from you guys. And I also want to make it clear that while our main program is bringing in children and families from all over the United States, every time we host a camp at Camp Valor, it takes between 100 and 150 local residents from Martin, St. Lucie, Palm Beach County to make that happen, people who volunteer. So it really brings our community together every time we have one of these events. So it really is a benefit to Martin County, St. Lucie County, and Palm Beach County every time we do this. So that is what we're asking for tonight, and that is the why. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Any questions?
No, I don't have any questions.
Stay up here.
Okay.
As mentioned in the earlier presentation, this is the 20-acre parcel that's coming out of the High Point PUD and going into the Operation 300 PUD. And as Ms. Baldwin mentioned, this is the proposed site plan that we have submitted to staff. Whenever we get a fundraising campaign or we have donors that want to, site-specific or fund-specific projects, we need an approved site plan to be able to construct building permits and go to the next stage of that process. So this application before you allows Camp Valor, allows Operation 300 to be able to accelerate their program of assisting these Gold Star families and doing great work within the area. Most of these uses are what you would see at a typical summer camp, and I think that some of the bunkhouses, the admin, the pavilion, all of these different features are really what the mission is all about, and bringing happiness and joy and love to these children who desperately need the mentorship and everything that they don't have any longer. So that concludes our presentation. Again, thank you for your time this evening. Happy to answer any questions you have.
Appreciate it, thanks.
Thank you.
Any questions?
No.
Public comment?
I motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hooah.
Awesome. Thanks. to you before you didn't
Oh,
make it
okay,
in
no
time.
problem.
Just wait on Bob.
Got it.
There, that's it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Pete.
Good evening. Peter Walden with the Growth Management Department. This is a presentation for Planned Mixed-Use Village.
Wait. Any ex parte?
This is a legislative, so you don't
I
have to
have
ask that.
none anyway.
You're good.
Well, I did actually speak with Marcella before the meeting.
I did as well.
Okay. So this is a proposal to make some minor changes to Article 11, which is the code in the land development regulations for the Planned Mixed-Use Village, which is also known as the Newfield Project, and is requested by Mattamy of Palm Beach. I want to go over some of the history because it's been about 4 years since Newfield, or what used to be Pineland Prairie, was before the LPA. That's when we brought the first master plan, the development agreement, and the LDR code to the LPA. This is language in the comprehensive plan in Chapter 4. I just want to show you this because of, the minor revisions we're making tonight don't have any real effect on the entitlements of this property. So all of that is baked into the comprehensive plan. It's also followed through with a development agreement that was approved that makes sure that all the levels of service are met as the project unfolds. And it is also, there's also conservation easements and preserve area management plans on all the open space that's outside of the urban services district that's associated with the project as well, which is, has several layers of protections in itself. So the project itself is approved for 4,200 residential units, 290,000 square feet of commercial space, 2 million square feet of industrial space. And one of the requirements is that 5% of the area within all the neighborhoods has to be for civic open space, or civic uses, sorry. So this is right out of the Article 11 code. This is called the regulating plan for the mixed-use village. We're not proposing any changes to this tonight. This kind of lays out the project. This Crossroads neighborhood in the middle was the first master plan that was approved by the project. The Board of County Commissioners will see a master plan for half of the workplace area in November. And this lays out some of the areas, and you can see the large amount of preserve and open space that's associated with this project. This green area is the main preserve area that meets the comprehensive plan requirements for a PAMP. Has very limited uses associated with it. All of this other open space is outside of the urban services boundary and will not be developed as the rest of the project is able to. And I want to show you, this is that table that was associated with this, and this goes to show that also with the comprehensive plan, the the entitlements are all, and the restrictions are baked right into the land development regulations, and we're not touching any of this tonight. They're required to have 70% minimum open space. 5% of the site will be in agriculture. There's native upland preserves, school sites. All of that remains the same. None of that is under scrutiny tonight. So this is the first master plan that was approved, and this is the Crossroads neighborhood. And there's a lot of detail in these plans. It's form-based code, and these different grids are different transects that allow different levels of development. And there's also a bunch of residential data outlined and commercial data. All of this gets to be very complicated. This plan was approved 4 years ago. Recently, I went to the board and we made minor changes to it, and that's one of the reasons that spurred some of this changes that we're requesting tonight, because as you could see, with all the detail and the street layout and the blocks and the alleys, it's very easy to make minor changes that really don't affect the plan, don't affect the density, don't affect the open space, but they reflect just on the drawing itself, minor changes. So the way the code's written now is that requires us to go back to the board and get everything to be consistent. So some of the things we're asking tonight is to be able to make very minor changes to the transect allocations and to some of the block networks and sizes, as long as they all stay within the meaning of the code. So I wanted to give a little bit of background, and I'm going to turn it over to the applicant to explain the specific changes of the code. Unless you have any questions about the actual entire project, I can answer prior to that.
Appreciate the maps.
Members of the LPA, thank you for your time this evening. My name is James Fitzgerald. I'm the Director of Community Development for Mattamy Homes, and we're developing the Newfield project. And so I wanted to just kind of start by kind of giving you an update as to where we're at today. And Pete touched on a few of these items as well. So we've first and foremost started by building little small portions of the farm to activate the site. We were able to have some really great events with the Boys and Girls Clubs and other organizations. And we did that kind of as a temporary measure while we were navigating the approvals process. In addition to that, we felt like it would be a good idea to also activate the site from kind of a trails perspective too. And so we brought forth, an approval for a trailhead that we're completing construction on now. And in that, in kind of these preserved areas, we've got just over 12 miles of trails, and we established the Kiplinger Conservancy, which is the vast amount of land that's preserved and conserved as a part of this project. So those are the first items that we led with. We've just started to come out of the ground in the last few months with the model block, and then the final iteration of the first portion of the farm that really is kind of a central amenity as the community gets on its feet. And it's to the benefit of not only the residents, future residents of Newfield, but the public as well. So we've got 2 buildings there that are really kind of the central hub of programming initially, and we're going to offer, cooking and gardening demonstrations there, like I said, to beyond the residents of Newfield. So, we've really felt like we've had a tremendous opportunity to take Knight's vision that he was worked with Marcella Cambler on, who's going to speak in a moment here, as well as Dover Cole and others, and help try to execute on that and bring that to fruition. So I know we haven't had an opportunity to present that to you all, but I wanted to, again, thank you for your time, and thank you for the consideration.
Thank you, James.
Thank you. Good evening, board members and staff. Is this my clicker? So, as mentioned by staff, this is an opportunity to make some very minor adjustments and clarifications to the code, what is known as the Plan Mixed-Use Village form-based code that implements the vision by Newfield's town founder, who's Knight Kiplinger. As staff mentioned, the overall master plan and the form-based code were approved by you all back in 2018. This is not a conventional PUD. This is an as-of-right process. We worked with you, especially Mr. Moyer. It was quite lengthy, but everything that you can and cannot do inside of Newfield has its own section of the comprehensive plan and its own form-based code, which is quite detailed. As staff mentioned, there is a regulating plan. The regulating plan has 11 either neighborhoods or districts. Neighborhoods are really for commercial and residential. Districts are more specialized used. Knight approved the first, the one that you see here as number 1, which is the downtown district. It's also known as the Crossroads District. And interestingly enough, Mattamy approach to moving forward in this development as they start implementing the downtown is not just to open maybe number 2 or 3 or 4 and put more houses there, but to start with number 8 and 9, specifically number 9, which is what is known as the workplace district. They have worked, as staff and Mr. Fitzgerald said, in establishing the PAMP and the open space and all the assurances to make sure that that open space is preserved in perpetuity. They have established the Kiplinger Conservancy. They had inaugurated the trails, the public trails for people to, there's a lot of events that have already, if you haven't been, you have to go. Pretty amazing. They started with the community farm, all that before any building came out of the ground. Then they did all the horizontal infrastructure for that first neighborhood. I believe construction is in progress right now for the first 15 model homes, and we'll get into that. 15 model homes. They're all very different because this plan requires diversity. And Newfield Parkway is under construction, and as I mentioned, they're now going to come forward with the first master plan for the workplace district. Now, in all fairness, when we were going through all of this, we were very focused on the downtown and on the neighborhoods and on the walkability. And this workplace, while it was very specific in the code, we hadn't got into the same amount of detail that we did for the neighborhoods. As they're coming in with it, we've noticed a few things that we could do to improve it, and that's what we can do right now. Now, the code allows Mattamy, allows the applicant the ability to make these changes through warrants or requests to the commission. We felt it would be cleaner to just come in and adjust those little things in the code, make it very transparent so that it's very clear as we move forward what those changes are. As I mentioned, this was the first thing they did, the CSA farm, which is directly attached to the downtown, and you see construction of Newfield Parkway right behind it. Immediately after that, the trailheads and the access to all the trails that go into, I don't know, at least 2,000 acres of pristine preserve. After doing that, they started with these community buildings that Mr. Fitzgerald just mentioned, a barn and a market for the community. And as you can see, these are the incredibly fast coming out of the ground models. You can see they're different building types, pretty diverse, traditional architecture. I think also soon to be available to tour and purchase. So the extent of this request, I think, can be divided into 4 categories. There's some update of the definitions of the glossary of terms. There are some clarifications. We had some language that we all knew what the intent was, but it wasn't very clear in the language. There's some permitted uses and percentage of open space that we have moved around, and we'll talk to you about it in a second. And then we wanted to correct some Scrivener's errors. So let me go through those. So the first clarification is the fact that we had a definition. You will see the language that exists in the code today in white, and what we are proposing to add or amend, either strike through and underline or just underlined and in a different color. Right now, it states that the block, because for walkability reasons, we have a certain dimension. Yes, you're nodding, you remember all of this. We have certain dimensions of blocks, and so it says that the lots have to be a certain dimension, and it defined how you measure a block. But if you look at this corner right here on the turnpike, on the southernmost corner, we have some blocks that we drew originally that are directly adjacent to the turnpike or that are directly adjacent to preserve areas that don't have the borders, they're not circumscribed by streets, nevertheless, they are blocks. So we felt we had to clarify that including where you're abutting the Florida Turnpike in the Workplace District, that does constitute a block. Again, the nature of a lot of these changes is this minor. It's just to show that, yes, we drew it that way. Yes, this was intended to be a block. Yes, that qualifies as the size or the increment of development that can come in as projects are proposed. The second one, we get even more picky on this. If you zoom into the drawings, you can see that the porch is just a tiny bit below the finished floor elevation. And it was unclear in our definition whether your porch had to be elevated 24 inches or your finished floor elevation had to be elevated 24 inches. The drawing said your finished floor elevation, and the language used to say the porch. So what we're clarifying is that it is the finished floor elevation that is at 24 inches, and your porch can be about 4 inches lower, which is normally how you build so that the water doesn't come all the way in. We had an inconsistency between the definitions in section 11.5.2. This got shifted, but this should have been crossing out section 11.5.2. If you read this language, it states that the lot line dividing a lot from a street or right-of-way is what this refers to. That's the definition of the front lot line. Corner lots are special in Newfield. We believe corner lots need to house homes that behave properly on both sides. So on a corner lot, only one lot line needs to be considered the front, and that is, in the plan, the street that has the highest priority. The code is very specific about how the side needs to behave. It still needs to behave within a pretty high standard, but it was clear that one of them is your front door and your main street, and the other one is your side, and will have to follow different rules. And then in section 11.5.2, we essentially had a definition that said if you are a corner lot, then you have two frontages, and it had to behave the same way on both frontages. So we're eliminating the one that we believe is contradictory in that sense. And again, it's not that the side is going to be blank. As you can see, I can go back to some of the pictures of the houses they're building. The sides still have porches, and it's just a little bit different frontage coverage. We are asking for the ability to clarify how transit zones how the percentage of transit zone is calculated. Right now, the definition says that the allocation of transit zones are required civic open space by percentage are based on gross area allocated transit zones within each neighborhood. And I'll read all this, and then I'll explain what this means. Gross area transit zone allocations within neighborhoods does not include wetlands or areas designated within the T1 transit. This is a code that has these transect zones, as we were talking before, because the transects ensure diversity. The transects tell a developer that you need to do a percentage of each transit zone so that we ensure that there will be a healthy mix of single-family homes and townhomes and duplexes and apartments and retail and workplace within a neighborhood. And it's very carefully outlined in the code. It's also flexible because you have a percentage of that. Now, we were having a back and forth with staff as to, well, if your percentage says it has to be between 10 and 30%, how are we calculating this? If a neighborhood has a wetland inside of it and we have to use that wetland area to calculate, to throw it into the calculation, our densities and everything was going to get, thrown off. And so essentially what this is saying is that when we are doing calculations, gross area transit calculations, we are not including, we're not counting. This doesn't change our ability, our density or our intensity. It just helps us allocate properly units within the built transit zones and not have to be calculating wetland areas as if they were part of the built environment. Back into this whole sort of a little more convoluted situation of the transects, within the 5 transect zones that you have to build within Newfield, 2 of those transect zones are green natural space. T1 is all natural. You really can't put any buildings there. Pretty much it's all outside the urban service boundary, so there will be no buildings with any type of services there. T2 is rural areas, pretty much where the farm is. It's still a farm, it's still green, but you may have a market or a building that has water facilities. There's a lot of T2 inside the urban service area. T3 is the least dense of all of our transit zones, and that's usually on the edge of the neighborhoods. That's where the larger homes are. And larger for Newfield means homes that are on 50, 60, 70-foot lots. They're not also not very, very large lots. And then there's T4, and T4 is pretty specific because T4 has 2 subcategories, if you will, T4O and T4R. T4O meaning this percentage allows you to have office or commercial, and T4R doesn't allow you. It just requires for you to have residential. And as you can see, there was a requirement of having, in some of the neighborhoods, we were able to mix T4O and T4R, and in some of the neighborhoods, it was keeping it separated. What we are trying to do right now is consider T4 as a single category, just for the purpose of how much of T4 needs to be in a neighborhood. Now, it's important to note that T4R and T4O don't have the same density associated with it, and that's not going to change. Let's say you have to do 50 acres of T4, and you decide to do 30 acres at T4R, which has a density of 20 units to the acre, and you do 20 acres, I don't remember what number I used, and you do the remainder at T4R, that's going to have 12 units to the acre. And by the way, these are net densities. They're not gross. We're not going over the comprehensive plan. They're super compressed to the actual lot. I just want to clarify that. I don't want anyone to get very nervous. And I know this is like trying to teach French in 2 hours. You, as an LPA board, are following. I'm sure it's probably hard to follow for someone that hasn't been in this process for a long time. But again, it's facilitating the combination of just this subcategory to treat it the same manner as the other 4 categories.
Marcella, could I ask you a question?
Yes, absolutely.
Otherwise, I'll forget.
I can't.
If a person wanted to have a home office in the TR district, would that be a problem?
No, and right now, home office, forgive me, I think right now it's regulated at the state level too. Home office, I believe, can happen anywhere. Ever since I think we did this, statutes have changed, and a lot can happen in residential neighborhoods that couldn't happen before. But right now, a home office
Including advertising?
The difference between T4O and T4R normally would have building types like townhomes or what we call mansion apartments, which are larger buildings that look like a large house but maybe have 4 apartments in it. Downtown Stewart has a lot of those. T4O would have probably had a small mixed-use building, would have had a live-work unit, would have had something that just brings an element that is a lot more commercial than just a home office.
It would be like glass front doors and things like that.
Exactly, yes. It allows you to start doing that.
Okay. How about advertising? Have you gotten there yet?
Advertising for what?
So if a business wanted to have advertisement in the
In
PR
their
district,
front.
it might be a problem.
So there is a section, a division in the form-based code that is about signage. It is a lot more restrictive than signage anywhere else in the county. For the most part, it's a little blade signs that are attached perpendicularly to the facade, and the percentage, the size of signs is very small. This just shows us a clarification and a correction. As you can see on this table, 3.2, all of the residential that is contemplated in T3 and T4 and the workplace district had a minimum ceiling height of 9 feet for residential uses on the ground floor. And when we came to the mixed-use center, we had just put 14 feet, and it didn't specify if you had a resident, you can have a multifamily building in the downtown. That doesn't mean that the ground floor units need to have a ceiling height of a restaurant. So that was one clarification. The second clarification, I don't know why mine is not showing this and strike to an underline, but in your version, it's going to show that. The second thing is we're adding 2 more notes to this table. One that clarifies that side setbacks for accessory uses, and by accessory uses, we mean a swimming pool or something that you're doing in your rear yard, can be 3 feet. 5 feet is for buildings, but your pool could be at 3 feet. Again, I think it's consistent with other parts of your LDRs as well. And then this was a mistake. We had a very low lot coverage maximum for townhomes and multifamily buildings. Now, keep in mind, Newfield is already setting aside 70% of the land. Before we even go in to develop lots, 70% of the 3,400 acres are open in perpetuity. So we've left 2,400 acres aside of openness. Then when you go in to develop the neighborhood, 5%, a minimum of 5% of that has to be open as well. And then when you go into your lots, you have another additional requirement of how much needs to be open. And we realized the townhomes had a lot coverage that was the same as a single-family home, or pretty close, and so we couldn't put a townhome on an urban area, and we couldn't put a multifamily building. So that number is being modified to say that lot coverage for a townhome or a multifamily building can be up to 90%. I'm almost done with these clarifications and corrections, and jump in anytime, Pete. There are, the way uses are regulated in Newfield is by building type, the different type of buildings that you can put. And so within the residential, you can see, for example, in your T3 zone, you can have mansion apartments, duplexes, side your house, cottages, et cetera. We are proposing to add a couple of residential building types into the workplace district. The workplace district is going to have offices and flex space and some industrial space closely knit with residential. We believe that residential is going to be very accessible and a big supply of workforce housing there. And so we do believe that clarifying that duplexes are also an acceptable building type within the workplace district, and consistent with the definition, any single-family or townhouse type can have an accessory dwelling unit, so long as it is a single-family type in that workplace district. We are proposing to add the ability to do an inn up to 12 rooms. We had the ability to do a hotel, and I think this was an oversight. If we can do the bigger hotel, doing a smaller inn in the workplace district, I think it's a better increment for the type of residential that Mattamy is trying to propose there and transition to the workplace areas. To answer your question, allowing live-work units in the T4R, since we're going to combine T4R and T4O for our calculations. We actually forgot to say that you could have a playground in your green areas. So we are saying, yes, it's okay to have a playground in your green areas. There's a whole section, I'm not going to go through all of them in particular, but we wrote the word forecourts wrong multiple times. There's an entire paragraph that when it got translated by Municode, it's the paragraph that talks about stoops and porches. They repeated the same paragraph twice. In all the documents that were originally approved, it was correct, but when it got posted online, it was wrong, and so we're just going back to make sure that gets clarified. There are two maps in the code, the street atlas and the trail atlas, that are illustrative. They're just examples to say this is how you create this map, and we're just clarifying. We're clarifying that townhomes are single-family homes and they can have accessory dwelling units. You know, it's an attached single-family home. It's not an apartment or it's not a multifamily. And I think I'm almost done. We also said that it was okay to have parks in the workplace district. Again, this was an oversight and a correction. And I think this is my final one before going to a list of procedural amendments. The way the form-based code is written, it has all the street types that can be used in all of the neighborhoods already embedded in the code. And there's a line item there that says, if the applicant wishes to create new street sections, it is possible. We don't really have to go through any process. It just has to be approved by the county engineer. I think Mattamy wants to just establish this in the code and make sure that, again, there's no surprises. And so there's the first chart just says that a street type that is already existing in the code, which is the urban drive, you can see it's the one in the top, it's 62 feet wide, can also be used in T5 or SDW. It can be used in other transits. This is essentially a road that is like a ring road, because you can see it has homes on one side and doesn't have anything on the other side. We realized we hadn't added that for the workplace district. The other two streets, we are modifying one existing and one new proposed street, where the only change is to improve it for the better. It's just simply saying that sidewalks are required on both sides, not just one. And clarification as to how traffic lanes, 2 lanes, really putting the language on the right location. As you can see, none of these changes are really substantive. If anything, they're just making the street sections a little better. Now, these are procedural. I'm happy to go through each one of them. I know some people need to get out of here quickly. But I think most of these were really proposed by staff, because they really know what things have changed within the code. Some of it is references. Pete, if you want to talk about these.
Yeah, it basically gives us a little bit of flexibility in some of the applications. And like we said before, we had to go back to the board with very minor modifications to a master plan. This allows master plans to be augmented a little bit during the final site plan process to make sure everything's consistent. And a lot of these sections are just clarification where they refer back to Article 10 because Article 10 was revised. So now they have the proper code references. And there really isn't too much else to it. It's just basically housekeeping. So I'd be glad to answer any questions. I know Marcella did a great job
Well, I
going
know
through
it's
everything.
painful to go through these little details. Again, it's really technical. And for the most part, all of these things that are here, except the ones where we're referencing different sections, again, the applicant could have done with staff either administratively or going and asking for a variance to the commission. What Madame would prefer to do is, let's make sure it's all in the code, it's all very clear. Our master plans were coming in with a note that said, if you're 10% up or down, but you're still meeting code, you can change it without telling anyone but staff. I think this takes that pressure off of staff, and it's in the code, it's clear what they can and cannot do without coming back to a board, and, ensure that the vision is still met.
I think we knew when we first started out on this endeavor 4 or 5 years ago that we would be having to make some changes to the code as we worked on the development, and I'm kind of surprised at how minor the
Hey, it's
changes.
less than the CRA.
That's very true. So the changes are very minor, and like I said, they don't affect any of the entitlements or open space or any of the major components of the development.
Any questions from the LPA?
No, I really appreciate the presentation. And I also think that this is bound to have to be adjusted as we go forward. Is there an upper limit? Is there a limit at which, if there was going to be a change, you would feel motivated or required to come back to the county for approval?
Well, absolutely. So it depends on what kind of change you're talking about, right? If the change is still in keeping with the vision and all the principles and the character, this new language that staff is adding is saying how much of it can the applicant do without coming to the commission, which is pretty limited. Anything above that would require going back to the commission. Anything that would deviate Manami from following the actual vision would require a complete, set of LPA and commission and the founder being supportive,
Right.
who is very engaged, and it's actually a good thing.
Excellent. Any questions?
Any public comment? Sharon McGinnis?
So I've listened to the presentation, and it all says it's very minor changes, but what strikes me as not being minor is allowing the addition of accessory dwelling units into this plan that weren't there before in townhomes. So does that not increase the amount of people that, or units that are there and the population? I don't understand what the benefit is of allowing the accessory dwelling units if they weren't initially a part of the plan. Is that not adding more housing? That's my point.
I can answer that if you'd like to finish.
That was it.
That's it? You want me to go ahead?
Go ahead.
Yeah, accessory units are allowed throughout the county. That's something that's been added to the CRAs and the rest of the county, and we're making changes to the rest of the county code to make sure that is clear. Accessory units are already allowed throughout Newfield. This was just to make sure that we identify townhomes as single-family, fee-simple products that are also, as being a single-family product, they are allowed to have a accessory dwelling unit just like the rest of the county.
So you're saying the townhomes is just a style of housing,
Yes,
but it's a single-family home?
It is a single-family home, yes. They are sold fee simple, they're normally platted, and it's just like a detached home in that regard. And we do have throughout the county and the CRAs especially, townhomes with accessory dwelling units all over.
Well, I know the fact of adding accessory dwelling units has become a popular process to allow multi-generational families to be supported on one property, and it's a wave, right? I mean, yes, we need to make better use of our space and allow people to live together, whether older or younger people, but I was stuck on the point of a townhome. To me, a townhome didn't seem like a place for an accessory dwelling unit. I mean, there's like no room left. Now you have like nothing left. There's 90% of the lot is taken up.
It actually works quite well. You have townhomes in a row, and often they have detached garages in the back with accessory dwelling units above them, and it does work out pretty well.
Thank you.
She had the same question I had. How do you do that? How do you add, I mean, you got townhomes all lined up, so you're telling me that there's a garage in the back, and they put an apartment above the garage?
Yeah,
That's-
that's one scenario.
Tell me another one, because I'm lost on that as well.
Well,
We can show you examples too. I didn't mean, go ahead, finish.
okay, I mean, you don't have to have a detached garage. The garage can be incorporated into the townhome, and you still have a separate accessory dwelling behind the unit.
Yeah,
Townhome lots are usually very narrow, but they can be deep enough to accommodate that use.
And sometimes they have gatehouses as well.
Sure.
They're set back.
Yeah, yeah.
I've just never seen that.
So there's examples of townhomes with garages in the rear with accessory dwelling units in downtown Stewart. If you go Camden Avenue in California, all of those townhomes, the alley in the rear has the garages with the ADUs. I think part of this was the clarification, again, because we had definitions that stated what is a single-family home, right? And a townhome is a single-family home, and it said single-family homes have ADUs, and we're just triple clarifying that a townhouse is a single-family home. I mean, I'm happy to pop on Google Earth and show you, but again, the Potsdam area, which is the closest in development style to what Newfield is going to be, has a significant amount of them right there.
It's actually incentivized throughout our code to provide these.
As affordable.
Yes, yeah. It's one of the few acceptable forms of affordable housing that we've been able to add to the county.
Thank you.
And that concludes my very detailed presentation. I appreciate your patience.
Thank you. And so staff wants to have approval of this,
Yes, sir, we
So-
are asking for your recommendation of approval. Yes.
okay, for staff's recommendation, okay.
Yes.
I would move for staff's recommendation of approval of the land use development regulations for planned mixed-use village.
I'll second it.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Passed.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, may I, Paul Schilling, Growth Management Director, we have a few items for the November 7 meeting.
17 inch.
I plan to be here.
Thank you.
When is it?
November 7?
Thank you.
When is Harold done?
Keep that handy for me.
Did I say that too loud?
It was obvious.
Sorry, Fred, it's nothing to do with you. I'll be here.
If you get Invest 95, you'll be really happy, right?
I'll be here.
Thank you.
Motion to adjourn.
Aye.
All in favor, say aye.